Okay, one last thing I'd like to discuss before we jump into Dreamweaver. Let's take a look at what a website actually consists of and what happens when you type a web address into your browser. Now, anyone who's spent any time at all on the web knows how to type a site's address into the browser window. But not everyone knows exactly what happens when you do this. So I just want to take a couple minutes here to give you the basic rundown and to explain where Dreamweaver figures into this process. I have this folder here on my desktop called tCloud, and that contains a website for a fictitious tea company called tCloud. Now, if you have access to the exercise files, don't bother looking for this folder. It's just something I created here on the desktop so I can show you a little bit about file and folder structure. So there's really no need to open this for yourself. You can just sort of follow along with me here. Now, looking inside this folder, I can see it contains several other folders as well as several other files here that end with the .html extension. A website really is just a collection of files and folders. Think of this main folder, meaning the folder containing everything that appears on my site, as the site folder. This is also sometimes referred to as the root folder. Now, the concept of a site folder is very important, and incidentally, in case you ever open any of your site windows and you don't see the .html extensions or any of the other extensions, in Windows, go to the Tools menu and go to Folder Options, and this really is just a Windows issue. You don't have to worry about this on the Mac side. Go to the View tab and make sure that Hide Extensions for Known File Types is not checked. Because if I check that and apply it, you can see that the .html extensions have all been removed because I've chosen to hide those extensions. Now, when you're working in web design, it's usually a good idea to be able to see the file extensions because you want to be able to know what type of file you're working with, whether it's a .htm file, .html, .gif, .jpeg, and so on. So I highly suggest if you're in Windows, open up Folder Options and make sure you uncheck Hide Extensions for Known File Types. So I'll click on OK. Now, looking in the site folder, I can see files like brewing.html, catalog.html, contact.html, and drinking.html. Files that end with .html or .htm are the actual web pages of the site. Now, the folders found in here contain sometimes additional web pages, as well as additional folders and images that we use throughout our site. And again, a website really is just a collection of files and folders that are all linked together. But notice this file here called index.html. This is a very important file name. For the most part, you're free to name your web pages whatever you want as long as you follow the basic rules that we looked at in the previous movie. But when you name a file index, you're basically declaring this page to be the default go-to page for the entire folder. Because this is my main site window, this index file is the default go-to page for my entire website. Now, I have a version of this web page already on the web, so let me fire up my browser. And I'll go to tcloud.com. Now, anytime you go to a World Wide Web address, you're connecting to a computer somewhere on the internet that hosts the website you're looking for. I'm not going to go into the details about how you go about associating the web address with its actual location on the web right now. That's something that your web hosting provider will help you with, and I'll be talking about web hosting in the chapter on getting your site online. Right now, my concern is explaining the default page that appears when you type in a web address like tcloud.com. When I type tcloud.com in the address here, I'm telling the browser to find the folder containing the tcloud site. And since I didn't specify which page to open, it's going to open up the default page, often called the home page or the front page. This default page is the one named index, and it'll have the extension of .html or .htm. Notice if I type /index.html and press enter, it takes me to the exact same page. The point here is, since I didn't specify a particular page in this folder, I get the index page. Let me give you another example. If I click the About Us button here, notice the address says tcloud.com/aboutus/, but there's no file listed after that in the address. This page you're looking at right now is also called index.html, as you can see right there. But it's inside a folder called About Us, about_us. So the index page here is the default file inside About Us, a folder. Now if I click this link here, I can see the name of this particular file is locations.html. Notice that it's still inside the About Us folder, but it's actually a specific page. So if I typed tcloud.com/aboutus/locations, this is the page that I'd see. Again, if I don't specify a page, if I remove that part, now I see the default index page again. So you can see that each folder can have its own index.html page, and the browser will always default to this file if you don't specify another page. So this is just an example of how you can set up your site's file structure. This is not the only way to set up your site, and we'll be getting more into these concepts as we go along. I'm showing you all of this now because I think it'll help make sense of Dreamweaver's Files panel, which is the window in Dreamweaver where you manage all aspects of your site's files and folders. So that's a quick overview of what's going on in the background when you call up a web page in your web browser. This chapter here should have given you enough background information to jump right into Dreamweaver, so let's get started.